Okay, we'll have Tim Freeman, Stan Primosch, Tootie Smith, Chris Boyce, and our last fourth panel for invited testimony will be Madeline Garcelone, Lou Jaffe, Chief Pete Kearns, and David Leslie. Okay. Yes. Yes, I'll repeat the names again for the next invited testimony. Madeline Garcelone, Lou Jaffe, Pete Kearns, and David Leslie. And this is still the invited testimony, and then after this we'll go to the public testimony. With that, whoever would like to start.
Start here?
Yes. Welcome back.
Great. Thank you, Chair Hoyle and honorable members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tim Freeman. I'm a Douglas County Commissioner and a recovering state legislator. It's great to be back and see you all. I won't take much time. I know some of the other folks have a little more testimony than I have, but I do have a couple points I'd like to make. First, I'd like to thank you for having the hearing. I know this is going to be a long day for you. I have sat on that side, and I had the chance to serve on the Rules Committee in the past. It is a long day, and I do appreciate it. Another thing I want to get straight for the record, Commissioner Cameron mentioned that I might sell a gun. I don't sell guns, I buy guns. And I'm not going to disclose how many guns I have, like a previous person said, but I have plenty of them. A little bit of discussion about the Second Amendment. It's pretty easy to sit on this side of the dais and talk about how you support the Second Amendment. You all will have to cast a vote, which will describe how you support the Second Amendment. There is a difference, and I hope you understand that difference. Actions are much more important than words, and you will get a chance to prove your support of the Second Amendment. I would ask you please to focus on the portion of the Second Amendment and the word infringe. Infringe may have many different meanings. It doesn't say infringe a little bit. It doesn't say maybe infringe. It doesn't say infringe for what somebody described as 90 seconds, or in my case last week when I bought a gun, almost 30 minutes. It says do not infringe. Understand that infringe can mean a lot of different things, and I would encourage you to focus on that portion of the Second Amendment. And just for fun, I would encourage you to read the state's Constitution on this issue. We talk about wanting to get people that are lawbreakers or people that conduct illegal activity to quit doing it. This law is aimed at trying to keep folks from committing illegal crimes. Do you get that? It's already illegal, the crimes they're committing. You're going to pass another law to tell lawbreakers not to break the law. Good luck with that. I think it's a little bit far-fetched to think that people that are going to get a gun to do something illegal with it are going to follow a lawful way to get the gun. A little bit about the enforcement. You had a chance to hear from our great sheriff who has really served our community for a long, long time, and some of the challenges we're having in Douglas County. I've been in the process working with the other commissioners in Douglas County of covering the county and explaining our county budget, which will, this very budget cycle, start to eliminate some really important services. It will cut out our libraries. In Douglas County, we've given back our mental health services to the state. We're working on a process right now to change the way we do public health. Things are really difficult where I'm from. As difficult as the decisions you are making, I'm having to make some very difficult decisions. The idea of you all passing a law that is going to have an expectation of people to be followed and not having the resources to enforce it is a very big challenge for us in Douglas County. So please be aware that adding additional cost and additional laws to rural Oregon is a big challenge. I know some folks from the big city were just up talking about how they wanted to do things in Portland. I don't come from Portland. I come from very rural Oregon, and we do not want this law passed. I encourage you, please, not to pass this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tootie Smith, Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. Today I represent the position from the board, and I will speak on my own behalf. On February 19th, Clackamas County passed the Second Amendment resolution supporting those rights. After hearing from countless citizens through email and live testimony, our resolution stated, 1, affirmed our commitment to the rights and liberties enshrined with the Constitution of the United States and the state of Oregon, supported the rights of the people to keep and bear arms as stated in those constitutions, opposed any state or federal law that abridges or contrary to the provisions of those constitutions, and oppose any state and federal law that unconstitutionally restricts those. Encourage gun owners to bear and store their firearms responsibly, safely, and in a manner in accordance with the law. Furthermore, Clackamas County agreed on March 31st to oppose Senate Bill 941 and encourage the legislature to instead spend their efforts to remedy the state's background checks laws as a whole, rather than patch loopholes in current laws. Clackamas County urges that you oppose Senate Bill 941, and we have a population of 380,000 people. Speaking on my own behalf, this bill stops no criminals. It does, however, prevent good people from getting legal guns. It criminalizes the storage of firearms for friends and neighbors. It puts law enforcement in a position of arresting good people for acts they have engaged in for generations in this state. This is bad public policy based on politics rather than reason. And Mr. McLean, I'd be happy to answer the previous question when time allows.
Sure. Yes.
Yes, Madam Chair. My name is Stan Primosch, County Commissioner, Yamhill County. I'm the father of 7, grandfather of 14, a Vietnam veteran in 64, 65, 66, fought for the constitutional rights of this country, and I'm still fighting for those constitutional rights. The Second Amendment is very important, but as a county commissioner, I took an oath of office to uphold the Constitution. I also took an oath of office to be responsible for the resources of Yamhill County and to monitor and try and control the sale of firearms in Yamhill County would take resources that are already quite strained. Just to the south of us in Polk County, they have sheriff's deputies for 10 hours a day because of budget constraints. I do not want to put Yamhill County in that same position. I want to see us be able to maintain the safety and well-being of our citizens, and we do not need Bill 941 to do that. I'm here speaking. We were I believe we were the 3rd county in the state of Oregon out of 26 counties who have passed resolutions opposing this bill. And I'm here speaking on behalf of my fellow commissioners in stating that we do not believe this legislation is helpful in any way to our citizens and will in any way guarantee anybody's safety. The gun violence that we see on a daily basis, a gentleman from California was talking about how they have universal background checks. You turn on any TV station in California and you'll hear of shooting deaths substantially greater than we have in the state of Oregon. Those background checks aren't stopping the bad people from being bad, and this one won't either. I really encourage you to turn this down. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yourself.
Madam Chair, my name is Chris Boyce. I am a commissioner from Douglas County, Oregon. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you, members of the committee, for allowing us to testify. A sponsor of the bill, and Representative Williamson, mentioned that there was a few things that had been overlooked in this bill, and I would like to point out a few things as well. Many of you have heard about situations where guns have been involved in violent crimes, and a few examples mentioned today was the Clackamas Town shooting. And I spoke with the gentleman who tragically lost his wife at the Clackamas Town shooting in the hallway after the testimony in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and asked him if he was aware that the firearm that killed his wife had been stolen and not purchased legally, maybe originally purchased legally, but stolen by the one who used it to murder his wife, and he was fully aware. This would not have stopped that crime. Representative Williamson told a story of a lady who was killed by her mentally ill husband. This bill would not stop that crime. The folks in the audience behind us are wearing stickers on their shirts that say background check saves lives. And in theory, maybe, but give me some examples. I've heard many, many, many examples of crimes that have been committed with guns and violence that have been committed with guns, and not one single example of one that would have been stopped with this particular bill. Senator Prozansky himself, just a few minutes ago, said the majority of mass shootings in this country have been committed by people with mental illness. And my question is, why aren't the majority of those folks seeking help? I happen to know for a fact that there's many, many folks who have mental illness that want help that are afraid to ask for it for fear of losing the right to bear arms. We got to find a solution to that problem. Denied background checks do not equal criminals necessarily not getting guns. As we've heard many, many times, criminals are going to find ways to commit crimes. They do it all the time. Just because a person doesn't pass a background check does not mean that they're not going to end up with a firearm in their hands. And I think all of you know, as Commissioner Freeman mentioned earlier, we're trying to impose more laws on citizens who obey the law and not focusing on increasing the penalties for folks who are breaking the law. These people who we're talking about today, trying to keep guns out of their hands, are already criminals. They're committing crimes. Another law is not going to prevent them from committing a crime. They're already doing it. Just two more points before I finish. More people in Oregon each year die of drug overdoses from the use of illegal drugs than from violence with firearms. And I'm wondering why we're not trying to pass backgrounds on folks who are buying drugs illegally instead of guns. Why? The answer is simple: because it isn't going to work. If we required folks who are trying to buy illegal drugs on the street to go get a background check, it's not going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve this problem either. And one last point. Twice now I've seen a gentleman who's a gun store owner from California testify in the invited testimony section, who just now told us he wasn't invited, decided to testify on his own, when many people from the state of Oregon have driven hours and hours to get here and not had the privilege to testify, at least in the Senate hearing. And my question to him is, he said that every single gun sale in California requires a background check. My question is, how's that working out for you? What's the gun violence rate in California? How's that working out down there? How is that very rule that we're trying to impose here in the state of Oregon working to solve their problems? Thank you very much.
Thank you all, and thanks for coming from so far. And Commissioner Boyce, it is our goal on this committee that people will have an opportunity to be heard. I think that's a vitally important part of the process.
I'm grateful for that.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Questions for this panel?
Chance.
Representative Smith Warner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to take a moment. Commissioner Freeman, with all due respect, similar to how Representative McLean disputed a previous witness's statement that about any reasonable gun owner believing one thing, I would also just like to dispute your assertion that your opinion about my support of the Second Amendment, that you get to decide on how I feel about the Second Amendment based on how I would vote here. So,
I apologize if that's what you thought I said. What I said is that on this side, it's easy to say you support the Second Amendment. On your side, it's more difficult because you actually have to cast a vote. That's all I was saying. It's a different transaction.
and I would, if I may follow up, I would say that I believe that on this issue, people will vote in various ways who on both sides of this and will both believe strongly in the Second Amendment.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
And I think that one of the key things that we try and do is not to impugn anyone's motives or know what anyone's motive is for doing or not doing a certain thing. But I want to say that for all of you, I very much appreciate your service. I specifically want to thank those of you who came from so far away, and we miss you a lot here. Commissioner Freeman.
There is life after the legislature.
Yeah, and Douglas County is lucky to have you. Any other comments or questions? No. Okay.